There's a groundbreaking proposal making waves in policy circles that could fundamentally reshape how Social Security cost of living adjustments work for millions of Americans. This plan targets COLA increases for high-income beneficiaries, and the projected savings are staggering, potentially ranging from $35 billion to nearly $400 billion over the coming decade. But here's what makes this particularly urgent. We're racing against the clock. The Social Security Trust Fund is projected to reach insolvency in approximately 6 years, which would trigger automatic benefit cuts of roughly 24% across the board. That's not a maybe. That's a mathematical certainty unless Congress acts. Let me break down exactly what's being discussed here. The proposal centers on implementing a dollar-based cap on annual COLA increases for the highest earning beneficiaries. Think about it this way. Currently, someone receiving $50,000 annually from Social Security would see their benefit increase by about $1,400 with a typical 2% COLA adjustment. Under this new framework, that same individual might see their increase capped at, say, $900 instead. They'd still receive a raise, but it would be limited to protect the overall solvency of the program. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something. This wouldn't affect the vast majority of beneficiaries. If you're receiving $1,000, $2,000, or even $3,000 per month, you'd continue getting your full COLA adjustment every single year. This proposal specifically targets those at the very top of the benefit scale. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: income inequality within Social Security itself. We have beneficiaries pulling in $60,000, $70,000, even higher amounts annually, while simultaneously, millions of seniors are living below the federal poverty line, struggling to afford basic necessities on $1,200 or $1,500 a month. Does that seem right to you? Should we continue expanding benefits indefinitely for those who are already receiving substantial payments when others can barely keep the lights on? The program was never designed to create this kind of disparity. Social Security was established as a safety net, a foundation of retirement security, not as a mechanism to deliver premium-level benefits to high earners, while lower-income retirees face impossible choices between food and medication. Here's where I think the proposal could be enhanced even further. Instead of a hard cap at a specific dollar amount, imagine implementing a graduated, tiered system. Here's how that might look. Below $3,000 per month, full COLA, no restrictions whatsoever, $3,000 to $3,500 per month, 75% of the standard COLA, $3,500 to $4,000 per month, 50% of the standard COLA, $4,000 to $4,500 per month, 25% of the standard COLA above $4,500 per month, zero COLA adjustment. This graduated approach would create a smoother transition and potentially generate even greater savings while maintaining fairness across the beneficiary spectrum. It would also help address the concerns of those who might feel blindsided by a sudden, complete elimination of their COLA. Let me put some numbers in perspective for you. Social Security currently distributes approximately $120 billion every single month to beneficiaries nationwide. Yes, you heard that right, $120 billion monthly. That's roughly $1.44 trillion annually flowing out of the system. Meanwhile, the trust fund sits at about $2.7 trillion. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Here's the sobering reality. At the current burn rate, that entire reserve will be completely depleted within 6 to 7 years. Gone. Zero balance. When that happens, the law requires an automatic 24% reduction in benefits across the board. No exceptions. No grandfather clauses. Everyone takes the hit. The savings from this COLA cap proposal, even at the upper estimate of $385 billion over 10 years, represents only a fraction of what's needed for long-term solvency. But here's the thing, we don't need a silver bullet. We need smart, incremental reforms that buy us time and demonstrate political will to tackle this crisis. I understand the fear surrounding Social Security reform. I really do. For decades, any politician who even mentioned touching Social Security was committing career suicide. The phrase reform Social Security became political kryptonite. But we've reached a critical juncture where the greater risk is doing nothing. If lawmakers continue to punt this issue down the road, paralyzed by political fear, we're guaranteeing that 24% benefit cut. That's the ultimate outcome of inaction. Reform doesn't have to mean cuts for vulnerable seniors. In fact, properly structured reform could actually increase benefits for lower income retirees while creating sustainability for the program overall. We could redirect the savings from capping high-income COLAs directly into boosting minimum benefits for those who need it most. Imagine a reformed Social Security system where low-income beneficiaries see their monthly checks increase. The program extends its solvency by decades. High-income retirees still receive substantial benefits, just with slower growth. Future generations can count on the program being there. That's not a pipe dream. It's entirely achievable with the political will to make it happen. Here's what keeps me up at night: the pace of legislative action. Congress moves at a glacial speed on controversial issues, and Social Security reform is about as controversial as it gets. We're 6 years away from insolvency, but given the typical timeline for major legislation, hearings, proposals, debates, revisions, compromises, votes, we need to start yesterday. Consider this. The last major Social Security reform was in 1983, and it took years of negotiation to achieve. We don't have years anymore. We have months, relatively speaking, before we're in crisis mode. This COLA cap proposal might buy us a few additional months of solvency. That might not sound like much, but those few months could be the difference between an orderly reform process and a chaotic, last-minute scramble that leaves everyone worse off. If you're currently receiving Social Security benefits below $3,000 to $3,500 monthly, this proposal would have zero impact on your annual increases. You'd continue receiving full COLA adjustments based on inflation, just as you do now. If you're in the higher benefit categories, you'd see your annual increases moderated. But let's be honest, if you're already receiving $50,000 plus annually from Social Security, you're likely in a more secure financial position than someone barely scraping by on $15,000 per year. For future beneficiaries, this kind of reform signals that the program will actually be there when you need it, rather than facing massive across-the-board cuts just as you're entering retirement. This COLA cap proposal won't single-handedly save Social Security. Let's be honest about that. But it represents exactly the kind of smart, targeted reform we need to be implementing right now. It addresses inequality within the system, generates significant savings, and does so without harming those who depend most on their benefits. We need more proposals like this. We need means testing for benefits. We need to examine the payroll tax cap. We need to look at gradually adjusting the full retirement age for future beneficiaries. We need comprehensive reform, not political posturing. The window for action is closing rapidly. Every month that passes without meaningful reform brings us closer to that automatic 24% cut. Every political cycle wasted on partisan gridlock instead of substantive solutions makes the eventual fix more painful. So yes, I support this COLA cap proposal. Not because it's perfect, but because it's a real substantive step towards solving a crisis that threatens retirement security for millions of Americans. We need to support reforms like this, push for additional measures, and demand that our elected representatives stop treating Social Security as a political football. The stakes are too high and time is running out. Reform isn't the enemy. Inaction is. And if we don't act soon, we'll all pay the price.